Some people are influenced by friends and family, and some, like Senator Obama, are influenced by their pastors. Who do you consider to be your closest advisor for campaign issues and for issues in general? And for this, we'll start with Dean Scotches.
Oh, geez, I was hoping I didn't get to go first. It's going to be one person. Are they fictional, real? Well, I will tell you this, and I think that person is embodied in my parents. And I will tell you this reason why. My parents are of the greatest generation. I call myself a next generation Republican. And sometimes Republicans go, what does that mean? You want to change all this stuff? But no, I look at the story of my family, which they came here from Greece as part of that very proud legal immigrant group of the 1900s. They opened businesses. They opened shoe stores. They pursued the American dream. They didn't want a whole lot, but they worked real hard for the next generation of kids, for their kids. People like my Uncle Bean, who I'm named after, who was a poor Greek kid delivering newspapers to houses. 18 years later, was a member of the United States Army as an OSI agent being parachuted in behind enemy lines in Burma, India during World War II. Stayed there for a few years, came back on the GI Bill and went to Harvard. Then they ushered in the greatest moment of economic prosperity this country has ever known. So you guys, and you ladies and gentlemen from the greatest generation, you've given us the best example. You fought through the Great Depression, or you fought through the Great Depression. You went out and you fought and defended democracy across the globe, and then you ushered in the greatest moments of economic prosperity this country has ever known. And I thank you for that. And that image and that face I see all across this room, and I see it all across Maine as I go see it. But where it strikes me most is the lessons I've learned from my mom and my dad. And I think politically, the guy who gave a name and a voice and a face to that generation was Ronald Reagan. So if I could take all those people, the greatest generation, Ronald Reagan, who symbolized it, but most of all, my two loving and wonderful parents, Peter and Sophie Scontris, who raised all 7 of us at 30 Love Lane. They've taught me everything I know around that kitchen table, so it's got to be them.
Well, the closest political advisor that I can look at right now is very close to me. She's standing in the back of the room. And I say that sort of tongue-in-cheek, but I say it very seriously, too. I am so very blessed to have married up in my life. And Ruth has just been an incredible supporter and inspiration, and someone who has always been there for me. And also, I guess I would have to include that my children. My son Chaz is in the back of the room, my daughter Tricia. We've been able to talk things through. This has really been a family experience for me since I ran for the state senate back in 1990. I can remember my first wife, she would take the kids, and they were little, and she would be on one side of the district, and I'd be on the other side of the district, knocking on doors, and listening to people, and talking to people, like Bob Croto down in Saco with Bob Zexon. We always would stop in there, get a cup of coffee, and get a lot of advice. And believe me, when I told you that people, I think the political process in Maine is one that I'm so very proud to be a part of. You hear a lot of people beat up on politicians and beat up on the political process. Well, I really question why they want to get involved if they are going to beat up on it, because I think it's a very good and noble process. There are bad actors. There are bad actors in Washington. There are bad actors in Augusta. And there are bad actors in the corporate world, too. The point is that the majority of the people serving, I think, are trying to do the right thing. And if you listen to the people who sent you there, if you work among them, if you live among them, if you send your kids to school with them, if you know their issues because you live their issues, I believe that combined with some really, really tight family ties will make terrific advisors. And they will be the kind of advice that I reach back on every single day. I've told you a couple of times I grew up in a small business, and when I was in Iraq, my dad sent me the Wall Street Journal, about 10 of them at a time. Every couple of weeks, I'd get these Wall Street Journals, and he'd go through and he would circle and highlight certain things in there. And I read every single one of them. In fact, as I left Iraq, I was getting on a helicopter to get out of Iraq, and I had, they call it a helmet bag. And in the helmet bag, I was trying to get all my gear down in there, and I had 4 Wall Street Journals I hadn't read yet that I took with me and read them in Kuwait and then read them on the plane back over, because I know my father would quiz me about it. And I know that he can call me up and say, did you read that editorial? did you see the thing that they said about taxes? Did you see this? Did you see that? And, you know, I've got to be able to talk to them about that. And it's just, you know, it's a great thing. So this whole entire process that we go through, whether you're talking about the primary process or the general election, it's a wonderful process, and we're so fortunate to be doing it here in the state of Maine, unlike any other state in the country. And I'm proud of that, and certainly